could be Islam, maybe also truth. So what actually motivated finally, say that's it, of course there might be a lot of time that has passed in research and so on, but do you want to share what was the final decision that really said that's it, Islam has to be the truth and I am going to embrace it?
Yeah, no, it didn't go like that. Because after I found out the information we just talked about, there were still concerns from my side when it comes to Islam. And one of the points that was really bothering me was the fact that in Christianity, of course, you learn, especially in the denomination of my church, that everybody after Christ, after Jesus, Isa, was false. So Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a false prophet in my view. So if he is not a true prophet, then of course everything he said wasn't true as well. So that makes the Quran false. So and so I had to find out who was this man. Was he really a prophet of God, the last prophet of God, like Muslims say, or was he like I learned during my youth? Was he a false prophet, or was he a deceiver? So I started comparing him to other prophets, and one of the prophets was, for example, Moses. Because there was remarkable that there was a minister, because I informed a lot of people about my writing, and I started comparing Muhammad, peace be upon him, to Jesus, and he said to me, "Well, that isn't a good comparison." He said, "You have to compare Muhammad, peace be upon him, to Moses." And I said, "Why would I do that?" And he said, "Well, because every prophet, and it doesn't matter if it's in Islam or in Christianity, they have different tasks." And I said, "That's what we believe, and that's what they believe." So Moses had another task compared to, for example, Noah, and Noah had another task compared to Isa or Jesus, and another, etc., etc. So he said, "Well, you better compare Muhammad, peace be upon him, to Moses, because they both had to establish a community. They were both what they call in Dutch lawgivers." And he said, well, they were both in a very hostile environment, and they were both preaching about one God. So they said, so you better compare them to each other and look at the moral character of those persons. And if you find something in the character of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, write it down. If you find something in the character of Moses or other prophets, Joshua, and etc., write it down, and then you can compare it. So that's what I did. And I didn't find out anything bad about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I couldn't, yeah, of course there were stories, but if you look at the context, it's like, yeah, it's exactly the same as person X or person Y. So that's the normal way of doing. And on the contrary, I found out a very warm character, a very caring, very generous, very forgiving. And especially the last part, because that's something in Christianity, they're always pushing forgiveness, like it's like it's a Christian something, a Christian concept, and that's not true, of course. And especially when I was looking at the story of Hind, then I thought, well, of course, there was a person that I don't have to explain it to you or tell you, but there was this woman, and she paid a lot of money to murder the uncle of the prophet. And the guy even got mutilated, his ears cut off, his nose, etc., etc. And it was horrible. And of course, the prophet, peace be upon him, was very sad. And the man died. So his uncle was killed by, as we say now, an assassinator, an assassin. And years and years later, of course, when he got into power, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he saw Hind again, and I thought, well, okay, this is the part that he kills her, or take her captive or whatever. And then I was reading and saw, oh well, he didn't do that. He said, well, it's okay, you're forgiven, and let's go on. welcome. And after that, of course, she converted. And that was for me the fact that if someone kills your uncle and mutilates your uncle or pays someone to do that, and you can forgive those person, that's a lot, but it's not evil. So, and that's what my vision of my view on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, it changed so drastically. And this was the drop, because you asked, well, what is it? It was the story of him that made me think, okay, this guy wasn't evil at all. I think we are wrong. And then I started writing, and there was a guy, Thomas Carlyle. It's a long time ago. He said, well, the lies which well-meaning seal heaped round this man Muhammad are a disgrace for ourselves only. And he was talking about the West, the Christians. And I thought, well, that now I understand what he meant by that, because in the beginning I saw the quote and I was thinking, well, maybe the guy was drunk when he was writing it, because it doesn't make any sense. But then after I got the information and the comparison between the several prophets, and I saw the story of Hind, I thought, well, I now understand what this guy meant when he was writing this about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So that was for me the thing that I thought, okay, maybe he is a prophet. And the other part, because it was about his character, his moral character, that persuaded me, and the concept of God again, what I was talking about in the beginning, because there was a guy, Fakhr al-Din al-Razi. It's a very old philosopher from Islam, I think 12th to 13th century, and he was explaining in a book the concept of Tawhid, of God. And I always thought, well, why are those Muslims so pushing the Tawhid, oneness, this? And I go, well, we know it right now, but forget it. We believe in one God as well. But then the way he explained it in his book, he said, well, we perceive reality by making something one. If someone says to you here, do you want a glass of water, for example, he said there are several abstract concepts like water, glass, drinking, giving, etc., etc., and you make this into one immediately in a second. And he said that's how we view reality here. And I said, why would reality be any different in the hereafter, in the other reality? And I thought, well, it's so logical. It's so much more logical than what I knew about the Trinity. So those 2 points, the concept of God, Tawhid in Islam, and the moral character of Prophet Muhammad, and the story of Hind as the drop, those were the points that in the end made me think, okay, I think Islam is the truth with a capital T, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is really a prophet and not the person I thought he was.
MashaAllah, mashallah. Very enlightening to hear this.